Hi, this is Zach with Warner Wound, and today we're going to take a look at the Junghans Form A Arabic numeral version. So this is a watch that Junghans introduced at Baselworld 2016, and frankly, we're really excited by it. We're huge fans of Junghans, which you should know if you've been reading the site. Their Max Bill line, their Meister line. We've reviewed many from both, and they're just endlessly enjoyable watches and really good value for a watch in general, specifically a German-made watch. A really nice entry point into the kind of world of German-made watches. This watch, the Form A, was kind of a new thing for them. So most of their watches fit into like the Meister line or the Max Bill line, but this is a whole new line, but one that I think really draws from both of those lines. So it was interesting to see them kind of synthesize these styles they've been working on. So you have a dial that feels kind of mid-century, and it speaks to those Max Bill classic Bauhaus concepts. But then the case itself is much more structural and speaks a little bit to the Meister series, but is also kind of its own thing. And it all comes together to be, frankly, a really attractive watch and a very, very wearable watch. So currently there's two versions of it and two chronograph versions of it. So there's two three-hand automatics and two quartz chronographs. The Form A Arabic, which is what we have here, has Arabic numerals for the hour index, and then there's one with just lines, so that it would be the other version of the three-hand. But they're otherwise identical. The case is really worth some close attention to because it is just a really interesting looking case, and I think just a fantastic design. So it's 39 millimeters to the edge of the bezel, 44.1 millimeters lug to lug, at 9.9 millimeters tall. So it's actually fairly thin. But the case shape makes it kind of wear even thinner. So as you can see, it's a very extreme cone shape. That draws from the Meister line and the Max Bill line. I think it's a really cool case design. But this one is just more intense with the geometry because it's just straight lines all the way down to the case back here. These curving lugs, it just looks absolutely fantastic. Beautiful contours on them. But from above, you can see they're much more severe, straight lines. There's a cutout here for where the strap goes in. Everything is very crisp, very clean. The bezel too, and this might be a little bit tricky to see, comes up and in at a slight angle, and there's a bevel there. Great attention to detail, and I think just a level of design, that we've come to expect from Junghans, but certainly from a brand that has that kind of the clout of having like the Max Bill watches. Like I said, just a huge fan of the overall shape and just the quality of the machining and everything. One really cool feature of it too is the case back here, which might just look like black glass, but is actually smoked gray. And within, you'll see the ETA 2824 movement. Just a cool way to do that, a little bit different. It feels like them having a little bit of fun, just trying something. I think it's cool. I mean, the movement that's in there doesn't look like it's been decorated in any kind of special way. So there's no perlage or anything I see. It's hard to tell if it's plated at all. But having that smokiness kind of overrides it. You still get to see the balance, still get to see the rotor. But, any kind of like ornate decorations maybe not necessary. And that also does speak to the fact that this watch comes in at a really nice price point of $920 for a German-made watch with a Swiss ETA 2824 movement. I think that's a fantastic price point. So, maybe having the less decorated movement goes towards that, sort of better pricing. Now, just getting into the dial here, really, it's a beautiful dial. It's very... it's serious. It has a seriousness to it. It's a little bit, it's Germanic feeling, but it's extremely well balanced and I think just extremely attractive. It's a huge dial, so 39 millimeter case. The dial is almost all 39 millimeters, so that actually gives the watch a lot more presence, particularly on the wrist. The dial surface, it might look white, but it's actually sort of a galvanized silver dial. It's that kind of really like if you were to take silver and make it matte, so to the point where it's almost white. So there's a subtle metallic sheen to it. It's a very nice, cool color. It's actually very, very slightly concave, which is uncommon. Sometimes you see dome dials, but you don't often see concave dials. It's really subtle. It's very hard to see. You kind of have to be told it, and then you'll kind of pick up on it the way the light moves around. But that does give it a slightly just different feel to it all. Brings the outer edge a little bit higher, which makes this interesting index along the side just a little bit more pronounced. And then, you know, it has a very just simple and elegant graphic design. So you have the alphanumerical numerals here, 12-1, skipping 3, going all the way around. Nice mid-century typeface there. It's very appealing. Once again, it's a little bit severe. And then moving out, you get kind of this more interesting index. So the outer index for the minutes and seconds features numerals at intervals of 5, and then these little depressed squares for the other minutes. So no ink there. They're blind, as they say. They're just punched in, so you see them in terms of the light and how it plays off of them. So like even here, from what I'm seeing, on these top ones, the light is hitting the outer edge, but here it's kind of hitting it at a 90-degree and shifting around. And that just, to me, is very dynamic and very attractive, and it's a very subtle way of making something different. Then at those intervals of 5, the numerals are ever so slightly colorful. So I want to call it a red, but it's really, I think if you're looking under a loop, more of a brown color that is reddish brown. That little touch of color goes a long way on this. It's not super playful, but it's just playful enough to kind of break that seriousness and make this more of a kind of a good everyday watch. The date window here at 3, really well executed. I think it's something that's actually gotten a lot of attention. You know, instead of just a little punch through the dial, they beveled the sides of it. And that just immediately makes it more of a well-integrated feature. As you'll see with the positioning, it doesn't quite line up with where 3 would have been. So it's a little bit further in, but I think that that little extra bit of you know, execution, a little bit extra bit of decor really helps it fit in with the dial. Hands then, these little hairpin hands, they are lume filled, which I think is the one thing that is unnecessary on this whole watch. It's such a small amount of lume, it's not going to really glow very well, and there's no lume on the dial to correspond, so I just don't think it's necessary. And actually little skeletonized hands would have been really cool. Second hand then, just a silver stick. On the wrist, I think the Form A design really comes together, not just graphically, but ergonomically. It fits my wrist so well. I mean, when I put this watch on, it's one of those watches that I strap it on, I'm just like, oh, this feels like it was made for me. And I don't always get that feeling. And when I do, you know, it adds that level of specialness. I mean, this is a watch that, you know, after having worn it for a bit before the review, I'm not going to want to give up because it's just so comfortable. I've put it on in the morning, worn it all day without thinking about it twice. And that's partially because of its comfort level and just how it fits, but it's also because this is sort of like the perfect everyday work watch, right? It's not a sport watch. It's not a watch you're going to like, you know, run around, jump in water with. But as far as going to the office goes, as far as going around a city like New York City, this is kind of perfect. It's legible at a glance. It's stylish. It's kind of professional looking. And I think, you know, wearing this with like a gray Oxford here, that just it just clicks. It just really clicks. It's like a watch. I just found it so comfortable, integrates really well with my personal style. And I tend to wear sport watches and vintage watches, and this just fit in with my taste so much. Getting a little more into the details now, just the strap and everything. It's a 21mm lug to lug. That is a bit annoying. But you know, not impossible to find. Also 22s will fit in there, probably a little bit of squeeze. The strap it comes on is really neat, and I don't say that very often, but this is a strange strap that I think is actually extremely well executed. So you'll see that the strap fits right up into the lugs. There's almost no gap. There actually isn't a gap because it kind of goes under the case, the bezel here, because of the ramped sides. So the spring bar is somewhere high up on here. So it fits right in, so there's this really clean line. And then the strap itself, it tapers, but what's really interesting about it is that the top is totally flat, totally free of any decor, but the underneath of the strap is actually curved. So it's sort of like a strap that's been flipped over. You know, imagine if you had a padded strap. Usually you see that ridge of padding on the top. Here it's underneath. So the strap actually kind of curls down. So it's a very, very, very thin edge. And then the edge has been painted a brighter tan brown, and the underneath the lining is tan brown as well. So it's kind of strange. You know, usually you would see the strap get maybe like more subtle as it goes under, or a black strap would have a black edge. But black strap with a brown edge is very uncommon, and it's just been beautifully executed. So they really made the perfect strap for this watch. And you know, I don't really think I would want to change it anytime soon, because it just fits really well. It's really comfortable, and it is extremely nicely made. So once again, you know, the Junghans Form A, $920, German-made, Swiss movement. If you're looking for a great everyday watch for a professional setting, if you're like looking for a gift, a really, really nice gift for like a recent graduate, this guy is definitely one to consider.